Alright, this is the Heir of Carthage. Gonna bring you another Napoleon Total War Online battle. And this is being fought on the map Ligny. Not sure exactly how you say that. Oh, sorry, bad views there. I'm playing as the Austrians, and let me first go over and show you my opponent's artillery piece. My opponent is God's Chief Blackface. And he only brought one artillery piece, which is a little bit risky, because my rule was max 2 artillery, and so you can pretty much assume that players are generally going to bring 2 pieces. But hey, you know, I've been beaten by people who don't have any artillery, so that's just the way it goes. So my first goal is to destroy his artillery, and you can see that they're already under heavy fire, and I used my targeted shot and got my howitzers to destroy his quickly. So now my opponent has a real problem, and that is that I have artillery supremacy. And the bad thing about that is that this is a choke point map. I've been playing a lot of games on choke point maps and unbalanced maps. You can see here's one of the bridge crossings. And again, sorry for the weather. I set the settings on dry, and for some reason it's pouring. It's kind of annoying. Let's take a look at my opponent's army real quick. He has up front, I believe, 4 units of skirmishers, which are all Prussian Fusilier. And then he's got some foot guards, musketeers. He's kind of got a mix of foot guards and musketeers. I want to say there's about 7 or 8 units of them overall. Here's his general, which is a general staff. And his cavalry consists of, looks like, 4 lancers. And I really like lancer cav on this game, so I'm not surprised that he's brought 4 units of lancer cav. Now I am going to cut out pieces of this battle because it's rather long, and I really didn't want to post this battle because, to be honest, my opponent was quite good. And yes, I end up getting the better of him here, but it's really mostly due to the fact that I was able to nail his artillery piece early off. And so that's kind of an unfortunate circumstance for him. And from the way he played, I feel like had we played on a flat map of some sort, this battle would have been much closer, or he would have won. Not to say that this battle doesn't end up being close. My opponent plays very well. And he makes some mistakes, and I make some mistakes. Alright, so there's his army. Let me introduce you to mine. Here I have a unit of Landesschützen, or however you say that, Landesschützen. And I've got a couple of units of Hungarian Fusilier there. All my infantry units, as far as line infantry, are Hungarian Fusilier, and I believe I have 8 of them. And I have 3 units of Jaegers besides those Landesschützen, or whatever you call them. Anyway, I've got 2 7-pound howitzers, which you've seen in action already. Here's my general, which is Josef Alvinci, something like that. Alvinci. And my cavalry is 2 units Uhlans. I have a unit of 1st Hussars, and I believe a unit of Prussian, yeah, it's Hungarian Hussars. I'm not very familiar with Austria. I rarely play with them. And right there you saw the message that said I killed his general. That was kind of me being further distasteful. But to be honest, I like to win, and who doesn't? And so it's not that I'm just trying to be flat mean to my opponent, but if I had killed his artillery, and then I can kill his general, that's definitely going to turn the tide of this battle into my favor. Here's some skirmishing taking place between his Prussian Fusilier and my Landesschützen, which aren't any good, and my 2 units of Hungarian Fusilier in range as well. So there's definitely some good skirmish fighting going on here. And what my opponent is doing is going ahead and moving towards the choke points. And one thing he does have is he has a skirmisher superiority, and so he's going to attempt to capitalize on that, whilst I barrage him with artillery. And my artillery is going to be pretty darn effective. Here's a unit of musketeers that my howitzers are absolutely decimating. They're down to 81 men. So you can see my howitzers are just going to go to town on these guys. And there's not much my opponent can do about this. He does later put some of his troops in this building to redress that situation a little. In any case, I'm going to cut off some of this battle, and basically what happens here for a long time is my opponent skirmishes me, and does so very well, and causes my troops a significant amount of damage, and thus redresses his artillery loss to some degree. Alright, I'm back. It's just a minute or so later, and here my opponent is bringing some troops across this bridge to outflank me. He was doing pretty well in the skirmish anyway, and now bringing his extreme left across this bridge is going to put me in some severe danger. He's got a lot of Prussian Fusilier here, and they're absolutely just shredding my crappy skirmishers and my line infantry. So definitely not a good situation here for me. Let's take a look at what he's got on the other side of the bridge. He's got 4 units of musketeers, and that's a lot of line infantry in this vicinity. So in order to make sure that he can't do too much more outflanking, I've got some troops here guarding this bridge to make another choke point. But I definitely need to do something about the fact that he's got the better of me right here, and eventually I go ahead and retreat. Okay, another clever move that my opponent makes is he snuck his horses around behind my line, and I managed to catch them this time, but that may not always be the case. He's trying to take out my artillery, and if he can do so, he'll take away a critical advantage that I have. So that was a unit of his lancers, and I counterattacked them with my first hussars and some uhlans. But yeah, my opponent definitely made a run at my howitzer crew. Fortunately for me, he didn't destroy them at that time. And here's my Jaegers getting owned by his Prussian Fusilier. I've done hardly any damage to them whatsoever. You can see this unit of foot guards is pretty thrashed from my artillery fire, and he has put his other troops inside this building for the time being because my howitzer isn't very effective against the building. So that was a pretty smart move. Over here my opponent has beat me back, and so I retreated some of my forces up to this hill that I have. And like I said, my opponent was definitely a good player. I mean, I had a critical advantage over him, and he still gave me a pretty severe beating in many respects. And I'm not going to say that it isn't his talent, because it most likely is. And also, I really don't like Austria. I don't typically play with them, but that probably doesn't have anything to do with anything, because I've been beaten by Austria several times, so they must be decent. Yeah, over here I've moved my troops across that bridge, and I'm trying to get within range of some of his troops. In fact, I'm going to move them up here to this shoreline here in just a moment. Alright, this is one of my cleverer moves during the battle. As I said, I moved my men up to this shoreline, and basically I'm going to pepper his troops from the flank across the river here. And this is going to be one of my ways to try and get an advantage over my opponents further still. As you can see, the balance of power still reads in his favor, and he has a lot more infantry than I do at this point. And not to mention his skirmishers have given me a real beating. There's one of my units of Jaegers is routing. This unit of Jaegers came back from routing. Now after his horsemen came behind my line, I decided to take my horsemen behind his line, so we'll see if I find any success in doing that. If you're ever curious about what's going on in the overall battlefield, just make sure to look at this map here, and it will kind of show you the overall layout of the battle at this time. Alright, this is quite a while later. My opponent made another really smart move, got behind my line with some lancers, killed my general, took out my last howitzer piece. Fortunately for me, at this point, most of his infantry are dead, or depleted. There is, however, a large fight going on for this farmhouse here, and my opponent has quite a few men inside, and so do I. You can see that we both have 2 units each fighting for this building. And if I can take this building, that'll be the end of the battle proper. My opponent has 1 unit of depleted lancers there, and all of his infantry are inside of this building. So he's using his lancers to try and get a nice demoralizing blow to my infantry, and he's succeeding to some extent. It's just that he doesn't have enough lancers left, fortunately for me, because if he did, that could have been problematic, and if these men routed, it could have caused my other men to chain rout. But fortunately, the last remaining Prussian troops are about to rout from this building, but not without a good fight. So here's my troops moving in to make the last move. His other unit of lancers out here. This is another unit that came back from routing, and he kills my unit of skirmishers there, but then I put my men in square and they fire off some good shots and rout his lancers. I'm sorry for the heavy rain on this video. I'm sure that it will adversely affect the quality. Like I said, I put it on dry and it didn't turn out that way, but there's the end of the battle. My troops have finally taken the farmhouse. Let me say good game to my opponent, God's Chief Blackface. He played really well, especially considering the circumstances, and in many respects got the better of me in several different locations in this battle. So let's get to the results. Alright, here's the results. You can see that I suffered 910 losses, and my opponent 1282, had 1207 kills. Here's my unit statistics in case you're interested. One of my howitzer units just got an insane number of kills, and howitzers can do that in the right position. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed that battle. I know it's a bit pieced together, but it was just far too long to put into one video.